Hi. So I don't know who got in contact with you over the course of the pandemic that you have been out of contact with, but I'm sure someone. And for me, I got back in contact with, by his initiation, a old ex-boyfriend. Matter of fact, this ex-boyfriend just crops up every couple years. I can't stop him from getting in contact with me. He's relentless. I like it, but it's still relentless. And I know exactly why. I fell in love with this guy hard when I was 19 years old. And he is a jazz guitarist, the lowest form of jazz musician. And when I met him when I was 19, he had this, he had a very young face, boyish face, and the kind of hair you just wanted to tussle. And he wore blazers and looked good in them with jeans. But moreover, he had that joie de vivre. He had that ability to make you feel like everything was fun and that everything was an adventure when you were together. I loved this guy so much. I used to tell him almost every day that I couldn't believe someone like him would like someone like me. Basically convincing him that he could do better. And then one day he did. We broke up because he liked another girl. Now, when someone breaks up with you and then they move on to someone else and that person kind of looks like you or seems like you, it's a compliment. It's like brand loyalty. But when they date someone that is nothing like you, like the polar opposite of you in every single way, it is like they are done with the company, they hated the customer service and all of the models that the company offered, and they are never going that way again. They are switching directions. So he left me for a flautist, which I would consider the antithesis of my personality. She was very petite and blonde and fragile and played a tiny little instrument like an angel. And I was devastated. And I couldn't believe. I felt like the world was out of kilter. I felt like I understood the way it was all supposed to be together, and this was not it. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. It was Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Kind of felt like a very small town. I could not avoid all of the places where I would see all of my friends that knew us and him and his new girlfriend. So I did old-fashioned ghosting. And old-fashioned ghosting wasn't that you just don't get in contact with someone. Old-fashioned ghosting was you moved across the country. That's what we used to have to do, people. All right? It wasn't, I'm not returning your email. You left the half of the country behind. So I moved to Montreal. And it was just like, there was nothing there to remind me of David. It was like the land of bagels and smoked meat and people speaking French. I was going to McGill University, Harvard of the North. and it was that I made some new friends. It was lovely, but I was not over him. I was thinking about him all the time, and I was complaining to my new friends. And all that, I loved this guy and we were supposed to be together and, now I'm here, but I don't understand why. And maybe I should call him. And they were like, no. And they would try to do things to make me feel better. We'd be out, going. They'd be like, Ophira, look at that drunk guy. Go hit on him, like, it's okay and don't worry about it. But my one friend, Claire, she was just someone that, rightfully so, had a little bit of just couldn't take it. She just couldn't take it. She was just so pissed off at me all the time for not moving on. And so the 900th time that I was like, and David and I are supposed to be together. There's no one like him. She said, you know what? I've had enough of this, okay? Why don't you go to my friend who's a witch and put a spell on him? And I was like, finally, some fucking advice. So she gave me a name and a number, Natasha. And I called up Natasha and made an appointment. I made an appointment and she gave me an address. And she lived in where I was going to her house in the suburbs of Montreal. And I remember I was taking a bus there and I was, fantasizing, what am I walking into? And I truly expected utter exoticism. I really did. I thought I'm gonna come up to a lair. I'm gonna be walking into a lair and there's gonna be a lot of melty candles and taxidermy and some dry ice. I want to see some sort of there's gonna be, a lot of dead animals. I was thinking a lot of dead animals. But what I came up against was just a very plain bungalow house on a suburban street. And I walked up to this house, looked very, very warm and welcoming, and rang the doorbell. And a woman answered that was just wearing a t-shirt and jeans and her hair in a ponytail. And I said, "Are you Natasha the witch?" And she said, "Yes." And I was disappointed, not even any eyeliner, nothing. And I walked in, and there was a moment at this point where I was just like, oh, I'm being had. This is all bullshit. What am I doing? But then I wanted to believe in it so badly. I was like, oh, she doesn't need the getup. She doesn't need any of the extra accoutrements because that's the real person. The real witch doesn't need any of the extra accessories. So we sat down in her living room. It was a newish furniture I didn't know, but it had the plastic covering on it. And we sat down and yeah, she just said, "What's the problem?" And I just started telling her. It was very much like therapy, but the difference being at the end, she was going to put a hex on someone. So it was like actually how you wish therapy would actually go. And I'm telling her that I'm in love with this guy and we are meant to be together. I know he's the one, and just somehow things are out of whack and we got to get things back on track. And, I know in my heart this is the person I'm supposed to be with forever. And she goes, okay, and offers me the choice between two spells for $40. There's the come back to me spell or the move on with your life spell. And I'm like, come back to me spell. And she's like, the move on with your life spell is a very good spell. And I'm like, come back to me spell. That's the one I want. She's like, the move on with your life spell is now $10 off. And I was like, no. Come back to me spell. I want the come back to me spell. She was like, all right. And she gave me 2 green candles that I was to section off, 7 sections per candle. And what I was supposed to do was burn one section every night at sundown while staring at his photo and reading a spell that she had written out phonetically for me in English, kind of like a Passover Haggadah. And for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks at sundown, I'm supposed to burn the candle, stare at his picture, and chant this spell, which honestly wasn't that different from what I was doing with my life as it was. So I was like, okay, totally into it. And I went home to my apartment and I created like a little altar for David in the corner of my closet. I did not want to tell my roommates I was doing this because I was sure they would like raise the rent on me or something. And I went through this ritual. I timed out, figured out when sundown was exactly. I wanted things to be so precise, to have control, the best control over this spell. And I would stare at his picture with the most intention of all time, and I would recite the words to the best of my ability, every night. Honestly, I'm not very religious, but for the first time in my life, I understood religion. Because I had purpose every day. I knew what I was doing. I was getting up and going through my day so I could get to near the end of it where I would do the spell. In a couple of weeks, there was going to be some magic. I got it. I was very committed. And at the end of 2 weeks, it may sound ridiculous, but at the end of 2 weeks, I woke up and I was like, this is the day. I did my part. Let's do it. And I waited later in the day to call David, just to be cool. And then I called him, and he picked up. Amazing. And I was like, hey, it's Ophira. And I just heard, hi, Ophira. And I was like, what's going on? And I was like, hi, how you doing? How are things going? And he was like, I'm okay, I'm all right. What's up? And I was like, I don't know, just checking in. It was a very stilted conversation. It was so clear he wanted to speak to me. I was peppering him with questions. I felt like I was interrogating him, and he was just too polite to hang up on me. And then all of a sudden, the tone changed. Because I'm just like, yeah, and how are things in Calgary? And what's the temperature? And then I just heard him go, Ophira? And I was like, oh, that's it. The spell just hit right now. I hear it. And I said, yes, David. And he goes, I need to ask you something. And I was like, yes, David. And he goes, I need to ask you to never call me again. I know. I was like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong with the spell? What did I do? My brain is racing. And then I was like, you think a spell works, you idiot? And in one last desperate attempt to do something, I said to him, if by the time we are both 30 and we're not with anyone else, not married, promise me you'll give us another chance. And he said, whatever. And hung up the phone. And that was it. I had no more cards to play. Like, what am I going to do? Call him back? What do you think? No, that was it. So I had no choice. I just went on. I just moved on with my life, and, years passed. I dated other people. I finished my degree. I moved to another city. It was just living and continuing with life. But I was always going home to Calgary because that's where my family lives, and I would often go home over the holidays. Now, my birthday is January 2nd. I just pointed out because when you have a birthday on a date like January 2nd, even people you kind of don't know that well remember that it's your birthday. And I was home, it was the holidays, and I was there for January 2nd. And on January 2nd, it's my birthday, it's my 30th birthday, and the phone rings at my mom's house. And my mom has call display on her old phone. And there's some numbers that you never forget. And I'm like, oh my God. And I pick it up, and I just hear, hey, Ophira. And I'm like, David, how are you? Oh my God. He's like, happy big 3-0, woo. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. He's like, how you doing? We're just having a little quick catch up. It was very nice and warm. And then he's like, hey, do you remember this thing you said to me, like when you were living in Montreal, like, I don't know, like 10 years ago? And I was like, I don't know, what I said something to you from Montreal? I don't remember. He's like, yeah, you like kind of had this idea. And I was like, well, he goes, well, what you said? And I was like, yeah, I totally remember. I'm sorry. That's very embarrassing that I did that. And it was obviously, I was in a space where I was pretty desperate, and I'm sorry I did that, and I'm sure it was weird, and let's just forget about it, right? And he goes, well, I don't know about you, but I was engaged for a while, but that recently fell apart, and I'm single, and I don't know what your deal is, but I don't know. You want to give it another shot? And I mean, wow, the answer just bubbled up from deep inside of me. I was like, no. No. I was like, no, I moved on. I'm not that dumb 19-year-old kid anymore. But like, oh my God, I'm so impressed that you thought might be your plan B after a failed engagement. But let's be friends and let's keep in contact. And I would love to tell you that in that moment, I felt an emptiness in my soul that I would never be able to fulfill, and I was missing an opportunity. But instead, I felt the deepest satisfaction of revenge I think I have ever felt in my entire life. And that witch was fucking good. Thank you.